What's happening, family? It is your man, CRB Jr., Courtney Robert Brown Jr. here at Motown Mafia, here at the Motown Mafia podcast, sponsored by Big Boss Filmworks. In the house with his partner in crime, friend, brother, Lou. What's happening,
What
baby?
up, man?
You?
Man.
You good?
I'm good, man.
Family good?
Family good, man.
So, this, me and Lou started this journey. We started our professional journey now some 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's been 20 years.
And now a decade plus a year at Big Boss Filmworks.
Deep.
We got to do some kind of giveaway, show the family some love. We got to think on that.
Yeah.
On that, coming up month after next, Hustle and Grind.
Hustle and Grind is coming back.
Yeah. That's a big book fair put on by our people. Michelle Moore said You Promise Publishing. Last year was a great time. Eddie Baby was in town. Shout out to my brother Eddie Baby down there.
Shout out to Eddie Baby.
Real True Street Crimes. He's Eddie Baby at Instagram. He is Real True Street Crimes on YouTube. Obviously lifelong friend, son of the legendary Fat Man himself. He was in town. His sister was in town. The next remembers. Trish was there.
Yeah.
His son was able to stop by the booth.
Yeah. Shout out to Jelani Catering.
Jelani Catering doing big things down in the AZ now. Making it happen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's doing his thing in the AZ now.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Ice and Brother Kev stopped by. Shout out to Ice and Harlem World Books and all. If you need a book, send to your people who are sitting down. Make sure you look up Harlem World. Brother Ice, gonna have Ice on the pod too. Spoke out, and thank you for. I'm glad. Thanks for reminding me. Straight stunting. R.I.P. K. Slay.
R.I.P.
That was Ice Man.
That was a loss, man.
That was a loss. One of the founders, one of the hip hop founders, and especially on that mixtape tip.
Yeah.
And this was his publication, Straight Stunting.
Yeah.
And, I sold him many of those, and they hooked up, and so I just reached out to Ice, in fact, to give my condolences. So yeah, R.I.P. again to.
Oh yeah. And
I know you were in the mixtape world for a while.
Yeah, I was in the mixtape world for a good 5-6 years, and K. Slay, boy, man, K. Slay was one of the hottest doing it.
Yeah, so all good on that, and then Big 50 had stopped by the booth also at last year's Hustle and Grind. Got to get her on the pod. We've been working at this for over a year, scheduling and all. You can check out her movie on BET. What is it? A Real Hood Story?
Yeah, Real Hood Story. Yeah, BET Plus, I think.
BET Plus.
Showed on BET.
So that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it was a good time. Terry Woods was there. Lady T.
Lady T.
A lot of people from this space who been doing their thing and keeping these stories alive. People on the front line of finally allowing people who look like us to tell stories about us.
That's right.
So shout out, looking forward to that this year.
Yeah, big time.
But today, Henry Marzette.
Yes.
A name I think that you've been familiar with longer than most.
Yeah, my Aunt Amber, that's her father.
Okay, so for you guys who don't know, bring you some real, hopefully insightful street history that you may not be aware of, because we always say, like, today, the buzzword, because of the success of the show and obviously the size they did it, the BMF story is getting its turn, which is awesome, because it's enough out there, surely, for everybody.
Absolutely.
But to understand BMF, you got to understand YBI. Shout out to that whole crew, the YBI situation. And to understand the YBI situation, you really got to understand the Eddie Jackson, Courtney Brown, and Black Butch, and Charles Rudolph, and 5-0. And those guys, what they did in the 70s, right? But even before there was Eddie Jackson in this town, there was another Kingpin.
Yes, it was.
He is regarded, Scott Bernstein, shout out to Scott Bernstein, one of America's leading crime historians and consultants on these kind of things, working right now on BMF, worked on the White Boy Rick Project.
Yeah, the documentary.
Yes. Also, of course, worked with us. He was another day oneer with the team, along with Al Prophet, Al Bradley. Shout out to Al Prophet, American Dope. Scott speaks about in the award-winning documentary that we all produced. Art, yours truly, and Al, and Scott, and shout out to DJ Taxi, Richard Jennings, another producer on that.
Yes.
Spoke about that the first Kingpin was a guy by the name of actually Henry Marzette.
Henry Marzette.
Henry Marzette's story is fascinating. Henry Marzette was a black police officer in the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going back now some 70 years ago. So
Yeah.
some real history, street history here.
True history.
Henry Marzette was a decorated policeman for the amount of arrests and criminals he picked up. And of course, in the course of him ascending as a policeman, he was learning how the streets were operating and who was doing what in the streets.
That's right.
Well, as it does happen, Mr. Marzette decided that there was more money being made breaking the law than stopping people from breaking the law. But for a minute, he wanted to do both.
Yeah.
He was going to be the police, but he also was going to
And
the man. He started shaking down the big pimps and hustlers of his day. This led to a corruption charge, which he was convicted, and he went away to jail.
Yes.
As the legend goes, Dr. Carl Taylor, shout out to Dr. Carl Taylor also. Definitely looking forward to having him back on the pod and his involvement in some of our upcoming projects. One of America's leading sociologists.
Great mind.
Also featured in Motown Mafia. And Dr. Taylor had a great story about Henry Marzette giving him money when he was a youth, getting ready to go to school, and Marzette gives him some money and tells him, we're not giving you this money for you to get flashy and sharp.
Right. He giving him that money to go ahead and do what you're supposed to do with it.
And get you an education.
And that is the difference in the game nowadays, man.
Yeah, times have changed. And in many ways, not for the best.
Not for the best.
So yeah, that kind of old school thing, the great little story there. So check out Motown Mafia again. It's available on Tubi TV, on Amazon Prime, and you guys will enjoy it. It's a lot of history and it really unpacks it. And you'll hear. So yeah, so Marzette is a cop, getting awards, locking up lots of criminals. Then decides, you know what, the hell with this and this cop's salary. I'm gonna start shaking down the cops. I mean the dealers and the pimps. Ends up catching a case beyond that and sits down. While he's sitting down, he's plotting what he's going to do when he gets out.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's going to do when he gets out is become a full-time drug dealer. Well, given the large base of connections and understanding of the streets that he had, he comes out and he blows up right away. I believe that some of his early connections and his early plug was the Italian Mafia.
The Italian Mafia. And I believe he had some sort of ties to the Purple Gang, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, in this town, in Detroit.
Yeah, in Detroit.
The Purple Gang and the La Costa Nostra were hand in hand because the Purple Gang, the AKA Jewish Mafia, in Detroit was the dominant organized crime family or organization in conjunction with the La Costa Nostra end of the deal. Marzette gets hooked up with the Italians. Of course, again, he knew a lot of all this stuff from being a policeman. Who was supplying who and how the game went, right?
Absolutely.
He also has learned that the Italians or the Jews or whomever, they're just importing the drugs from Southeast Asia through Europe into America. To his credit, he was one of the first African-American quote-unquote kingpins to suggest, why don't we black men organize ourselves? And I've got a connection in Southeast Asia. We can cut out the Italians, the Jews, and all the middlemen, and we can be our own self-contained organization. A similar thing that, so I think he proposed this forming of a black mafia.
Okay.
Prior to even Frank Matthews and the famous 73 meeting where he asked all the big black drug dealers to come together, take advantage of his access to that French Connection situation, and that the black dealers would no longer be dependent upon Italians and other ethnic groups for their product. So he was ahead of his time on that.
Very much.
that, of course, I believe, as Scott explains, it led to that spree of violence that happened in 1970 and 71, the West Side 7 and East Side 6, or East Side 6 and West Side 12. You got to get my fact checks on that. Because some people wouldn't join his combination.
Okay.
You know how we can be.
Yeah, I already know.
You gonna be, so you want to be the man. And obviously the Italians are in the ear of a lot of the brothers saying, don't go along with that because not gonna support cutting yourself out the deal, right?
Right.
And promises were made and threats were made, and in that's what led to like Detroit becoming one of the factors led to Detroit being called the murder capital in the early 70s.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't know if you know that Marzette had bought lots of property down in the Bahamas.
Yes, actually, I think he was. That was like one of his last flights was out to that way.
Yeah, so I mean, he was a forward thinker on a lot of different levels.
Yeah.
Before his time then and now. It spoke about in Roland, in particular, a documentary done by our business associate, Mr. Al Prophet, a.k.a. Alan Bradley Prophet. DEA agent John Sutton was actually sent to Detroit to bring down the Marzette organization.
Mm-hmm.
Marzette would die of kidney failure.
Exactly. Yeah.
In 1971. Now, again, as I was going back, to understand BMF, you got to understand YBI. To understand YBI, you got to understand Eddie Jackson. Understand fully Eddie Jackson's situation, you got to understand what's going on with Henry Marzette. Henry Marzette dies in 1971, which is, of course,
the year that you guys picked up running.
So Eddie's already doing his thing, late 69, 1970, dealing with a guy who was a chief associate of Marzette, or partner. I'm not, John Claxton was a big fella in his own right, but him and Marzette definitely had inner workings.
Right.
Eddie's hooked up with Claxton. With
Claxton, yeah.
In late 69 and has a hell of a run with Claxton between 70 and the beginning of 71. By 71, John Claxton has gone on the run.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie's out searching for a new connect.
Mm-hmm.
Henry Marzette dies in 71. The Ali Frazier fight occurs in spring 71, which is, of course, where Eddie then meets Carmine Lombardozzi, the chief narcotics officer of the Gambino crime family. The rest, of course, is what becomes history of Eddie Jackson, his run with the Gambino family, bringing in my father and the rest of the crew, and their ascension to basically run Detroit from 1969 to their all incarceration in 1977. But it's not a coincidence that as Eddie's rise begins was as Marzette transcends.
Yeah, it was like a passing of the torch.
Without question. And the next person that they would be writing in the newspaper after Marzette's death, and in fact, DEA would be Eddie Jackson. John Sutton, the detective again in Roland, the DEA agent, he speaks about, so the first day he gets to Detroit, he's there to infiltrate the Marzette organization. Marzette dies the day he gets there, and then his attentions are turned to, Agent Sutton speaks about his bosses in Washington tell him, okay, Marzette's dead. I want you to focus on these two other guys. One's name is Devil Jackson. The other one's name is Eddie Jackson. If you look in that photo up there, the famous photo from the Madison Square Garden fight, it is Eddie the Fat Man Jackson in the middle, and then to his far right is Devil Jackson. Devil Jackson would eventually be murdered very shortly after that.
Yes.
And Eddie, of course, went on to fame, fortune, and legend. So just trying to give some clarity to the situation and bring, for the people who follow this kind of thing, all of this stuff is a domino effect. None of it has happened in a vacuum.
Yeah.
So, shout out. That's somebody who, when we get on to doing some of these larger projects, the Henry Marzette story really needs to be unpacked.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing. I mean, in fact, I remember in the late 80s, I had never heard the name. And I was around some OGs, and I'll be honest, I was kind of boasting about my old man and about Eddie.
Right.
And one of these old OGs was like, well, man, but really, the man for real from back in the day was Henry Marzette. And I was like, who that?
Right. Oh.
And then
How long ago was that?
Oh, that was a while ago. I mean, that's like the late 80s, early 90s.
Okay.
But these were some cats from the 60s and 70s, and I'm talking about all the Eddie and the old man that did, and they was like, but hold on, don't forget about Henry Marzette now. He was the first one to really do this town when it comes to that bag thing. So got just always share some history, some insights, some things that so much content out here. Sometimes some of the real people and their backstories don't get the attention that it should.
That's right.
And because I think in his case his family's been decided to be kind of really quiet about it.
Yeah, they've been a little bit on the hush tip.
So he didn't get the write-up in Feds. He didn't get the write-up in Don Diva. As people aren't on the internet talking about what Mr. Marzette did. But don't be confused. If you're talking about Detroit and really nationwide, his name, when you talk about those kingpins from the golden era, that era of Nicky Barnes, Frank Matthews, Eddie Jackson, you really need to be talking about Henry Marzette.
World class heavy hitter.
Heavy hitter. So, hope we share some knowledge with you guys. You got something else on this, Lou?
Actually, he basically is close to my family. He was literally around the corner from my grandmother's house where we started Motown Mafia.
Wow.
I mean, literally, all this stuff was happening right in the same area.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
And there's another guy from that era that we got to get some information on. Texas Slim.
Texas Slim, yeah, a good friend of my late father, God rest his soul.
R.I.P.
Omar. And we'll go into Texas Slim and a couple of the other fellas,
Yeah.
in the future posts, and then see what happens.
Because that's a name that still actually rings.
Yeah.
Whenever the old timers go down memory lane,
Definitely.
people will definitely give a shout out to Texas Slim. So yeah, Henry Marzette, Detroit's first kingpin of Motown. So we're talking about it here at Motown Mafia Podcast, a Big Boss Filmworks production.
Big Boss Filmworks. We got Making of the Mafia coming up soon. Check out that Patreon. I'll be posting that very soon, so you'll be able to see new footage, new shows, new films that won't be shown here on YouTube or Facebook.
There it is, coming to you, only for you. Again, appreciate your support. Please hit that like, share, subscribe, and
notification, baby.
And notification button.
That's right.
It's all good. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. CB Jr. signing out. Blue Stevens.
Out.
I'll let you, man. It was just time to really tell a great untold Detroit story, because it kind of covers Detroit at its zenith.
Very interesting story.
We decided that we were going to make a movie.
All right, Rich Rossi with you with Motown Mafia. I'm with Courtney.
Louis Stevens.
Louis Stevens, Courtney Brown.
Courtney Brown Jr.
And Alan Al Prophet Bradley.
And this is an entrepreneurial, inspirational story too, because again, I'm a real estate retail guy. That's what my skill set is. But I'm a businessman, so I was like, we're gonna do it. Sometimes when you got a dream, you won't have all the answers on how you're gonna do what you're gonna do.
What made this one unique was not so much the crime, but the intertwining with Detroit's history and the Motown era and kind of the economic decline of Detroit. And it's really the story of a family. And from some perspectives, it's has a happy ending, like you said. For others, it didn't have a happy ending.
Right.